Military retreats can be a messy affair. When occupiers leave, they reveal a lot of things: how they treated defeated soldiers, how they behaved as conquerors. Right now, something similar is happening in Ukraine, in the city of Bucha. It was captured by Russia on March 12th. 18 days later, it was retaken. As the Russians pulled back, images poured in from this city, images like these. Now, I have to warn you, these are extremely graphic pictures. What you're looking at are dead bodies, all of them piled on the streets, some with bags over their head, others with their hands tied. Authorities say 400 such bodies were found in Bucha. What happened to these people? Ukraine says they were massacred by Russia, that retreating Russian soldiers shot civilians point blank.
Bucha massacre is the most outrageous atrocity of the 21st century. And by saying we all refer to Bucha, but we should not forget about other towns and villages in the Kiev region, which also became the crime scene for Russian army. Without an exaggeration, by what we've seen in Bucha and vicinity, we can conclude that Russia is worse than ISIS in the scale and the ruthlessness of the crimes committed.
If true, this would be war crime, and a brutal one at that. There are reports of mass executions, torture, rape. Ukraine is already calling it a genocide. They want the International Criminal Court to prosecute Russia. But Moscow denies these allegations. According to them, these pictures are staged.
The other day, another fake news attack was undertaken in the town of Bucha in the Kiev region after the Russian military had left according to the plans and agreements. Several days later, a fake video was staged that is now being spread through all media channels and social media by the Ukrainian representatives and their Western patrons.
So far, we do not have any forensic evidence, nothing to conclusively call it a genocide. Having said that, it is hard to argue with these pictures. This one shows a mass grave outside Kiev. It was shallow enough to be noticed. A village elder and one family were buried in this grave. Then you have these satellite images. The building at the center is a church. Do you see the trenches around it? They're almost 45 feet long. Again, these are consistent with mass graves. Plus, you have testimonies from people, residents who survived the Russian occupation. Their stories corroborate what Ukraine is saying.
5 days passed, 10, then 13. I was looking for my husband. Then I went to a basement. Before that, I had written a report to the Red Cross, saying I had been looking and looking for him. They took my data. When I came to the basement, Tanya said to look there, as 2 bodies were lying inside. She said my husband could be there. When I came down, I recognized him by his shoes, his trousers. His face was mutilated. His body was cold. They turned him over a little.
And that's just one account. Dozens of similar testimonies are emerging from Bucha. All of them have the same story to tell, a barbaric retreat by the Russian army. All these accounts will be crucial in the days ahead. They will play an important role in any investigation. But will Russia agree to a probe? Well, so far their strategy has been to deflect blame. In fact, Moscow is seeking a special United Nations Security Council meeting today. They want just one item on the agenda, the killings in Bucha. Russia is blaming Ukrainian soldiers for these war crimes, basically flipping the narrative. You see, words like genocide and massacre cannot be thrown around. They must be studied, they must be investigated, they must be proved. Does that mean Russia gets a free pass? Of course not. Russia has already bombed civilian buildings in Ukraine. In other words, they've already committed war crimes. And these killings in Bucha would be a continuation of that trend. Either way, one thing is clear: untold atrocities were committed in Bucha, most likely by the Russian army, and there will be consequences for that. Earlier today, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Bucha. He said Russia's actions make negotiations tougher.
The longer Russia delays the talks, the worse it is for them and for this situation, for this war. Because every day when our troops walk in and deoccupy certain territories, you see what's going on. It's very difficult to conduct negotiations when you see what they did there.
Ukraine's allies are saying the same things. Germany, Britain, the United States, all of them have condemned the alleged massacre.
This will not remain without consequences. Russia will have to pay a price for this. And as far as we're concerned, we will do our utmost to make sure we bring those responsible to justice.
These bloody massacres committed by Russian soldiers deserve to be called by their name. This is a genocide and must be judged as such. This crime scene must be judged as a place of genocide.
As usual, Europe has a lot to say, but when it comes to doing something, they shy away. Take sanctions, for example. The existing ones clearly have not worked because Russia is not even considering a withdrawal. So what Europe needs is more sanctions, except the member states cannot agree. The Baltic countries, for example, are halting Russian gas imports. Western Europe says not yet. These differences are playing out in public. On Monday, Poland openly called out Germany for hampering Europe's response.
This can be seen at the European Council. Everyone who reads the transcripts, also the journalists from TVN, will clearly see that Germany is the main brake on very strong sanctions.
Russia will keep exploiting these differences, which is why Ukraine needs to act by itself, possibly strike a peace deal with Russia. Last week, there were some favorable signs. Both Ukraine and Russia exchanged prisoners. But the pictures from Bucha will change that. War crimes and talks cannot go hand in hand.